Mark, hit me with that sweet, sweet recap.
Sweet, sweet recap indeed, Dan. Well, we open up back to the ending of Amazing Spider-Man number 22 with Peter getting pushed by MJ through a portal and Wyatt getting killed off. What happens next is MJ's story. Jung jung. So Paul finishes off Wyatt and lets MJ know she did the right thing, while Rabin feels a disturbance in the Force, and boy is he pissed. Like Anakin getting his lower half incinerated pissed. So Rabin wants the sacrifice of the Scarlet Woman, and since Wanda isn't around, MJ, you're up. One day later, Paul wants MJ to move from the room. Peter is gone. Paul gets slapped. MJ does a very Peter-esque pose on her knees holding a Spidey mask. 1 month later, MJ looks pretty well put together for being in a dystopian universe, and she and Paul are working through symbology. A symbol that looks like a 7 leads to MJ getting a distant look and calling it the jackpot. 3 months later, and the page with MJ looking like Sarah Connor's that was spread all over Twitter a few weeks ago finally makes its real-time debut, while Paul seems to have been working out as well, so there must be a Planet Fitness in this dystopian timeline too. Paul finally convinces MJ to move on from the house after both get injured by Rabin. A week after that, Paul and MJ are marching through this dystopian hellscape, which leads MJ to quietly wonder, what's the holdup, Tiger? 3 months after that, Paul and MJ are going through canned goods, and MJ finds baby food, which leads to the next revelation, the children, Owen and Romy, who have been abandoned in another house. 1 week after that, Paul and MJ are pondering what happened to the parents of these 2 kids before Paul starts spouting off that their plan doesn't involve children. Where have I heard that before? That leads MJ to say she's not leaving without them, and Paul could go if he wants to. Paul is dismayed by MJ's dismissal and says he would never abandon the kids, and that's that. A month after that, MJ, Paul, and the 2 kids look like something out of a Graham Nash tune. Owen, who keeps talking about the Scribble Man, and then he asks for a hug, and MJ, she obliges. 3 months after that, MJ and Paul are testing out the symbology doohickey, and the 2 of them appear to have a silhouetted romantic meet-cute moment. Let's put a pin in this, because the key word here is appears. Now we're flash-forwarding seasons, and the family is doing family stuff. Paul and MJ are staring longingly at each other. The kids are calling her mommy. They're making pasta until another familiar voice starts talking about the return of the Sunblood. Ooh, yeah! And Rabin has brought his trusty blade of decay. Paul brings the kids to the safe room, and MJ readies the symbology blaster. Paul gets a shot in on Rabin before he gets injured, and MJ fires the symbology thingy and emits a blast of cotton candy. I mean, I think cotton candy is one of the most overrated fun foods too, so who am I to argue? Rabin is offended by such an offensive, and is just before he closes in on MJ and Paul, here comes the Sunblood, Peter Parker himself! Oh yeah! Anyway, we're reliving the final images of the last issue. Small voice, Rabin getting impaled, Peter getting cucked, yada yada yada. Which brings us back to the real world, and Peter and MJ looking super distant. MJ reminds Peter he was gone almost 4 years in her time. Peter asks her if Paul and her are an item, and she just mentions me and Paul and Romy and Owen. Okay then. Peter talks about things that happened like they just happened yesterday, because they basically did, and MJ is all, I know, but the internet thinks you're a cuck, so I gotta stay with Paul, and the internet is never wrong. Peter leaves the hospital just as MJ gets a doctor talking about Paul having no records before conveniently trailing off. And Peter is greeted by the Fantastic Four, and boy are they pissed about the whole mini-fusion reactor incident. Fisticuffs ensue before Captain America intervenes, reminding everyone that all of this could have been avoided if Peter just asked nicely the first time around. And he's like, dude, my girlfriend just ditched me because I abandoned her for 4 years in her universe and you wanted me to wait longer? What kind of cuck do you take me for? I'm just gonna keep working it in, Dan.
Third time's the charm.
I mean, the power of 3, right? Which
Right.
brings us all the way back to a flashback sequence of Peter reliving the moments from the first few issues, including one where he seems to be taking a swing at Paul, when it was written the other way around in an earlier issue, and Rabin is awakened to kill off the Scarlet Woman. And this obviously means Mary Jane dies in issue number 26 because the internet continues to be right about every single thing that is happening in Amazing Spider-Man right now.